This pit bull just needed a friend, but what destiny gave him in return was extremely surprising. Ozzy, an ordinary pit bull dog, was obsessed with something unbelievable. Despite belonging to the pit bull breed, he had a warm heart and friendly nature. Though he managed to charm everyone with his affableness, there was someone who still doubted his friendly approach. And sadly, it was the one who the dog desperately wanted to befriend. He did his best to gain the trust of that individual, but the indifference shown on its part broke Ozzy's heart completely. And when the dog was all disheartened, something miraculous happened that changed his life completely. It was to see if the change in circumstances would change the mind of that special individual or not. Listen to this story until the end and watch your perception about dogs and cats changing. Trust me, after reaching the end of this story, you won't be able to resist but share this amazing tale with your amazing friends. The Leonis family based in Southern California fell in love with Ozzy, a pit bull, at the very first sight. They liked him so much that they brought him into their house that already had a cat named Norm. Other members of the family included 3 kids and 2 adults. The family was apparently very happy with having Ozzy as a new member. Though the Leonis loved the dog, they still weren't sure how Ozzy was going to react to the new environment. And as we all know, pit bull bears a very wrong image when it comes to getting along with new people. And in this case, there was also a cat in the scene. In contrast to all the presumptions, Ozzy was a complete sweetheart. He won everyone's heart right from the moment he stepped into the house. Soon he became the adorable, obedient son of Leonis's and the best buddy of Leonis's youngest son. The dog was full of love and would shower his love on anyone coming across him. But it isn't always true that you get love back. This is what happened to Ozzy, who is going to have a big surprise in the near future. The family was all in love with the dog, and why wouldn't they be? He was such a sweetheart. Jennifer Leonis explains the sweet nature of the dog by giving an example. She says if any day someone would try to break into their house, Ozzy would offer to hold their flashlight, ask them about their day, and show them right to the TV set. It was his affectionate behavior that endeared him to people. Whereas everyone else was in love with Ozzy, the dog was captivated by toddlers. He loved children and wanted to be around them all the time. Along with toddlers, he had a deep affection for someone very particular. Ozzy was highly affectionate to small kids. He adored kids so much that he would run up to every toddler he'd see and want to kiss them. He'd stick his head out and say hi whenever he noticed a kid passing by in the car. That's the reason why he had such a strong bond with Leonis's youngest son, who was very young. Though the dog had made an impressive impression on every member of the family with his affection, there was someone who was yet to accept him completely. And it was going to be nothing less than a big challenge for Ozzy to win his approval. You're never gonna meet a dog as friendly as Ozzy. Not just humans, he loved the company of other animals too. For him, every animal he met had the potential of being his best friend. So when he saw Norm the old cat, he got very excited and began displaying his affection. The dog did everything he could to make that cat his friend. He'd follow him everywhere and would always show his love. The cat, on the other hand, had his own reservations about the dog. Not everyone liked the dog, and there was a member of the family who disliked him. And the member who was yet to approve of the dog was Norm, the family cat. Strangely, the dog was affectionate to the cat since the time they met him, but the cat never did reciprocate to Ozzy's fondness. No matter how hard Ozzy would try to win the old cat's friendship, Norm would remain unfazed. The grumpy old man just tells him to fluff off, said Jennifer Leonis, the human mother of the dog and cat. You'd be amazed to know the extent the dog went to win over the cat's heart. Ozzy, being caring by nature, would take care of every tiny need of the old and moody cat. He'd run after him and would also stay by his side only to get Norm's approval. He'd even rub his head on the cat. But he coldly ignored every effort made by the pooch. Regardless of the disheartening behavior of the cat, the dog continued persuading him. He just needed someone to take care of. Have you ever seen such a level of affection? What do you think? Would the haughty cat relent and accept the pit bull's friendship? Well, for that you'll have to listen on. Other than seeking friendship with toddlers and other animals, the dog had one more hobby. He liked licking the feet of Leonis's 5-year-old son. As mentioned earlier, he had a strong bond with Jennifer's youngest son. He'd take care of that little boy as his own puppy, and he loved to play with the kid, and their acquaintances soon graduated into a special bond. It seemed the boy had 2 fathers, the human one and the second, Ozzy. Norm, on the other hand, continued ignoring Ozzy. Though he had a close friend in the face of a 5-year-old son, he still wanted to have his own cat. That dog had everything: family, comfort, and lots of love, but he was still missing something. Still, there was a lacking in his world, a big void. He desperately needed a friend, and that old grumpy cat had the potential of being his friend but apparently refused. Jennifer, the human mother of Ozzy, was noticing all these things, but she was helpless. Ozzy's luck took an unexpected turn when Jennifer spotted something on the street. A usually ignored thing was going to make a big change in Ozzy's life. Jennifer saw a pregnant stray cat on the street. The cat was in final stages of pregnancy, and that worried Jennifer. The reckless condition of the pregnant cat bothered her, and she decided to keep the cat in her home until she delivered. The cat was named Winnie. Ozzy was very excited when he saw Winnie. He perhaps finally found a friend. But unfortunately, due to her vulnerable condition, Winnie couldn't reciprocate Ozzy's affection. On the other side, Norm remained stone-hearted. It was to see whether Norm was going to befriend Ozzy or not. Meanwhile, Ozzy was about to get another surprise. Eventually came the day and Winnie delivered her babies. She gave birth to 5 kittens, and when Ozzy learned about the arrival of kittens, he was on cloud 9. In fact, no one was happier than the pit bull. He began to tend to them and would show his love by licking them. And if we talk about haughty Norm, he as always didn't show any interest. And as far as the mother cat was concerned, she also had some thoughts. It was just the beginning of the surprises that Ozzy was gonna get. Now, keep on listening to find out how Ozzy proved all the old stereotypes of dogs and cats' relationships wrong. Ozzy would treat the kittens like his own children. He used to shower kittens with all his love. You'd always see him running behind the kittens and catering to their every need. He would cuddle and lick them when they hurt themselves. Needless to say, Ozzy slashed Winnie's burden by more than half. It was a great help for Winnie, but Norm was still as cold as before. No one had any idea why he was being so critical. While Norm remained rude to the dog, Winnie acknowledged and appreciated Ozzy's help. In order to show her gratitude, she would rub up against him. She never stopped her kittens from going out with him. The family said she'll rub up on Ozzy almost to thank him for her kitten sitting while she's out getting a break. You'd have never seen such a bond of trust anywhere else. Even the kittens were used to his presence. They'd rush to him after getting out of their blanket for some baths. They also liked being cuddled. No doubt he was the best uncle they could ever get. This unique bond was equally blissful for the dog. Jennifer Leonis stated, "Ever since we've allowed Oz to interact with the kittens, he's been so happy." The cat, on the other hand, was actually very happy with this. Ozzy was tremendously happy with the presence of kittens around him, but this was also a truth that the kittens were growing and it wasn't easy for the family to cater to all their needs. So the family decided to give away the kittens to a shelter. It was a difficult decision for the family to make, and it was to see how Ozzy was going to react like that. And also there was another question. Would Norm come forward now and support Ozzy, or would he remain stoic as always? It was now impossible for Ozzy to be without the kittens, considering that the family decided to keep one of them, naming him Troublemaker. By the name, it seems the kitten must be very mischievous. Moreover, Winnie was also going to stay with the family, though she would be spayed. Seeing Ozzy's love for the kittens, the adoption plan was put on hold for some time. It meant that Ozzy had more time to spend with all the kittens, and the affection of the pooch for the kittens was boundless. It was decided that when the kittens grew old enough, they would all be taken to forever homes. Till then, they were free to flourish in Ozzy's paws. Jennifer Leonis said, "Ozzy never gives up on love. It was his unconditional love for the kittens that changed people's general perceptions of dogs and cats' relationship. This dog was full of love for the cats, and he always wanted his own, and now he had not one but many." Though the dog had proved his love for the cats, he was yet to win the confidence of Norm, who was watching all these happenings from a distance. This story flies in the face of the generally accepted theory that dogs and cats hate each other. By now you must have understood that cats and dogs can become best friends. Ozzy was in heaven after finding these little fur balls. It may interest you to know that Ozzy wasn't the only dog that showed his love for cats. There are many, and one of them is Bubba the Pit Bull. Rebecca Pizzello brought a 3-month-old pit bull home. The adoption was made 6 years ago out of a shelter in Phoenix, Arizona. The dog was named Bubba. At that time, the mother of the dog didn't know about the strange obsession of Bubba, but it was soon going to be revealed. Call it a perfect coincidence, at the same time Rebecca's roommate rescued a litter of kittens. The dog and kittens were going to stay together under the same roof. Unexpectedly, Bubba and his new roommates gelled up very easily. He was very nice with his tiny roommates, and his roommates too enjoyed his affection. They spent their childhood playing together, and in no time the day came when they grew up. Now was the time for the kittens to say goodbye to Bubba, as they had become old enough for adoption. After the kitten's departure from his life, Bubba felt very lonely. He he was missing them immensely. It was then he developed a liking for cats. Now all he wanted was a cat that he could call a friend. Rebecca says, Bubba has had an endless affection for cats, like literally obsessed. This way, 6 years went by, but his desire to get a cat of his own didn't faint at all. Rebecca very well knew about his fellow pit's wish. They relocated to New York City, where a big surprise was waiting for Bubba. Rebecca said, I always knew he'd love having one of his own. Rebecca had finally adopted a cat for the dog. In order to adopt the cat, Rebecca had to send an application to a shelter. The shelter responded to Rebecca quickly, and the answer was perfect. She'd never felt so sure about anything. Rue stood out like no other, and I took her home as fast as I could. What do you think? How was Bubba gonna react? There was no end to Bubba's ecstasy when he saw the cat at his home's door. On seeing the cat, he rushed to her immediately. It was an unprecedented moment for Rebecca. The cat initially felt a bit odd, but soon she got mixed in with Bubba. They were gonna build a unique bond. What's more amazing was the fact that the two had the same color. In fact, it was the color of the cat that caught Rebecca's attention. She explained, the fact that Bubba and Rue have identical coloring still blows my mind. I knew Bubba would be filled with joy the second we walked in the door, and boy was I right. Surprisingly, Bubba took over all responsibility of Rue from the very first day the cat entered the home. He began to treat her as his own daughter. He was always up on his toes whenever the cat needed him. Naturally, the cat began to consider him her mom. He took care of Rue's cleanliness, health, and food just like any mother does. The mother dog and daughter cat are inseparable now. Every day from morning to night they stay together. It's only once they decide to go separate ways during sunbathing, but there they also end up snuggling together on the couch while the sun sets. Not just at home, but even if they're out traveling, it's difficult to pull them away from each other. To put it more clearly, you'd always see them close to each other. They're attached to the hip. Mother Rebecca said, Rue thinks Bubba is her mom and Bubba loves it. He bathes her like a baby and snuggles close to her to make her comfortable. If one of them is sleeping with the other would stay close by or snuggle up. It's difficult to believe that a cat finds comfort in the arms of a dog, but that's what happened here. This story also transcends all of nature's rules as well. Hassel is a Labrador retriever and never liked cats. Just like any other dog, he also thought that cats were for chasing. He continued to think so until Hannes, a kitten, entered his house in life. Hassel was only a year old when Hannes was born and taken in by Hassel's family to their home. They struck a rapport on the very first day. It was an all-new experience for Hassel. Bert says, Hassel wasn't fond of cats. Like a characteristic dog, he thought cats were for chasing. On the other hand, Hannes had already been in the company of dogs in the past. Bert continues, the family where Hannes was born also had a dog, so Hannes was already used to dogs when he came to live with us. For every part that Hassel was calm, Hannes was equally mischievous. He'd follow the dog everywhere he could, and Hannes would also eat from the food bowl of the dog and sleep on his couch. And Hassel, on the other hand, would enjoy the encroachment of his space by the cat. Even the dog's giant size was never a problem in their friendship. Bert says, as a real Labrador, he can be boorish, so he didn't understand his body's too heavy for lying on top of the cat, but Hassel always approaches Hannes with calm. Being a mischievous cat, Hannes would attack Hassel when he's sleeping or walking by. Bert also talks about the minor trouble they have because of the unique bond that the cat and dog share. He says, but they also love to sleep together, and adding, in the beginning we sometimes couldn't find the cat. We looked everywhere and would find the little cat tail under the dog. Now their friendship has become 7 years old. Time has passed and the bond between dog and cat has only grown deeper. Now Hannes is 7 years old and Hassel is 8. Though Hannes doesn't attack Hassel like before as they've grown old, she still enjoys his company. Now they usually spend most of their time by sleeping with each other. However, still it's the cat who dominates the dog. The owner says, lying with the dog is of course a very warm place for a cat. He doesn't mind the dog being all over him either.